thank you very much to all of you for coming along. I know it is coming up to the end of the show, so I'm going to keep this relatively short and sweet so you're not hanging around too much. First of all, I'd like to just let you know that Oliver Connolly is our director who's down in the brochure to be speaking today, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately. So I am here to take his place. My name is Natalie O'Sullivan-Gallagher, and I am the country director for Ireland for Barbary International. And what Barbary International do is we provide training for New York Bar and California Bar exam, for the bar exam. So if you want to become a US attorney, we will train you for that. But what I'm here to talk to you today about is to talk to you about training global lawyers for 21st century legal practice, and how the New York Bar qualification fits in with that. So to start with, Richard Susskind, who's an UK academic, has said that legal institutions and lawyers in fact, are at a crossroads at the moment, and they're poised to change more radically in the next 2 decades than they have over the past 2 centuries. This is something that has been recognised by academics and by practitioners throughout the UK and actually in Ireland and the US as well, and legal services are really on the cusp of very interesting change. Probably, I think a lot of you are lawyers. I myself am a lawyer, and I would imagine that, like me, we all are quite resistant to change. We tend to like what we know, and we like the tradition. But there are changes that are coming in that you will, as lawyers and working for law firms as well, that you'll resist at your peril. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today really is starting with what characterises legal education and legal practice as it stands, moving on to then the drivers for change in the legal services, and as well having a quick look at what we think is going to be the future of legal practice. Without a crystal ball, obviously we can't know exactly, but we can have a fair idea based on what's happening at the moment, and then how to best prepare lawyers to practice in this legal arena. So, traditional, conservative, old-fashioned and technophobic are probably 4 words that you could use to describe most lawyers. As I said, we are creatures of habit. We are very, very much a product of our education. The law degree, qualifying law degree, which most people will have done, is characterised by an overemphasis on theory, really, and doesn't really deal with the practical skills that you need as a lawyer when you're actually practicing. The College of Law has said that you shouldn't be practicing law in a vacuum, but again, the LPC programme and the BPTC programme are both still very heavily dependent on teaching the theory of law. While they'll teach some modules on legal practice, a lot of what you'll learn is really what you'll learn on the job. So you're not massively well prepared for working as a lawyer. Their hopes recently were pinned in the UK on the Legal Education and Training Review. I'm sure all of you guys were aware of the report that came out in 2013. A lot of people were kind of hoping that the fusty barrister training would be done away with, that it would be updated, that for solicitors something similar to the US system might come about, that after doing the LPC you might be given the title of solicitor, and that the 2-year training contract, which is a very cumbersome training service, would be done away with. But obviously what they really came out with, really the most significant thing that they came out with, was recognising that there is considerable dissatisfaction among students who are pursuing a career that they consider they're never likely to achieve. I suppose one of the common complaints really of legal employers is that the BPTC, the LPC, the law degree produce lawyers who are very well versed in law but who have no commercial awareness. And if you're working in corporate law, you need to know where your clients are coming from, where their business decisions are coming from, how their legal decisions are going to affect their business decisions, and vice versa. And a more rounded service really is what clients are looking for from their lawyers, and that's why that is what a lot of the city law firms are looking for right now. What they are also looking for is knowledge of cross-border. Knowledge about the law of other jurisdictions, because the nature of commerce at the moment is very much a cross-border, dealing with cross-border transactions. So for clients, what they want to know is that they can contact their lawyer and get advice on how their business decisions here in the UK will affect their businesses in continental Europe or in the US or in the Far East. So that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration. At the moment, with the economic downturn and the lower revenue, obviously that's the way that has practically affected loyal graduates, is that there are about, well, in 2012-2013 there were 6,035 full-time and 2,793 part-time law graduates who were on the LPC course, all vying for only 4,860 training contracts. From the BPTC then as well, only 1 in 5 people are actually going on to practice as barristers because they can't get the pupilages. And the problem with that really is that you have an awful lot of graduates who are putting themselves through the BPTC program or putting themselves through the LPC without any promise of a job at the end of it, which means that they're heavily in debt, between up to about 14 and 17,000 pounds in debt, with no promise of a job. And because the LPC and the BPTC programs are UK centric, they're not prepared for working anywhere else. Cuts in public legal funding as well actually are affecting access to justice, and so there are all these concerns that lawyers have at the moment, which are causing changes to occur in the legal services profession. So the main change is really the financial crisis has been a major driver of that. As Roger Cohen of Very Comply said, the financial crisis has created an overriding imperative to do more for less and create a relentless focus on efficiency. Richard Susskind himself spoke about the more for less challenge, which comes about because clients are demanding more of their lawyers. They have more work to do that needs to be done. They have more regulatory work that needs to be done. But what they need, they have less money in order to do it. So what they need from their lawyer is that more for less. They are looking for restructured fees, which is causing problems for the traditional law firm because they bill based on the billable hour. But in-house counsel are still, dealing with this problem where they're under pressure not to spend on external counsel, but they have all these regulatory issues that need to be dealt with also. So what is happening with this now is that the market is actually opening up a little bit. What started this in the UK was the Legal Services Act, which created the possibility for lawyers to go into business with non-lawyers with external funding. Now, these types of firms that are set up under alternative business structures, they approach legal services in a different way from the traditional law firm in that they are much more willing to use technology. They're much more willing to outsource the sort of routine work and keep the more bespoke work, the more particular work for themselves, which brings down their fees. So they're now creating a situation where they're in competition with these traditional law firms, and the traditional law firms are not changing their structure. Another thing then that is putting the traditional law firm under pressure is the legal processing outsourcing companies who traditionally did document review and legal research, but who are now branching out into things like drafting for straightforward M&A transactions. And clients really like this because it means that it'll bring the fees down, because the LPOs can send their lawyers, they have access to fantastic external talent, they can send people to work on specific projects for a specific period of time for a specific fee for their clients in situ in a way that the traditional law firm can't. And what we've seen recently, in the last 2 years or so, is about a 32% growth in the LPOs because of their 24/7 accessibility, their access to external talent, and the fact that they can scale up or scale back operations depending on what their clients need. So another then factor that's driving change in the the provision of legal services is innovation in IT. Now, I'm sure all of you as lawyers as well will be somewhat resistant to IT. Lawyers are not known exactly for being very techy. As you can see there, this is how lawyers would tend to print legal documents. But it's one of the things that you'll ignore at your peril, really, because with the competition that's coming from the LPOs, from the alternative business structured companies that are now providing legal services who have embraced technology, the law firms and lawyers will have to do the same. Okay, so I guess we shall look now to see if it's the end of lawyers as we know it. And I don't think it is, and it's something that Susskind has also predicted, that really it's not going to be the end of lawyers. What you're going to see is that the legal job is going to diversify. So you'll have different categories of legal jobs, which is good news for lawyers and law graduates. You'll have, starting with the expert trusted advisor, who is something like the lawyer that we have now, so the traditional lawyer who is providing bespoke advice where just automation of documents just won't work. You'll then have somebody who will act as an enhanced practitioner who will work alongside the expert trusted advisor rather, to assist them, won't be as knowledgeable or won't be as specialised as they will be, but will work alongside them. And then you're going to have the legal knowledge engineer. This is going to come about with the computerization of legal knowledge. It's a knowledge management role, but will require in-depth legal knowledge and management then of vast amounts of that knowledge. And then you're going to see the legal risk manager, which you'll see at the moment in in-house situations. You're going to have lawyers who are there who are protecting their client, basically, who are being proactive in managing risks to their businesses. But you're going to see this coming into lawyers who are working outside in-house situations. And finally, you're going to see the legal hybrid. So this is an idea where you have a lawyer who is also qualified in a discipline that's related to their practice. So their second qualification is going to add value to the service that they provide to their clients. So like I was mentioning earlier, you're going to have lawyers who are qualified as business advisors or management consultants, so who really understand the business needs of their clients and can advise them on both the law and business. So this is what legal services are going to look like in the future. You are going to have multiple types of legal service providers, so that's going to include the LPOs and your alternative business structure. Because the market will be opened up, you're going to have cheaper legal services also. And the commoditization of legal services will come from the computerization of documents, and the idea that you can set up an online questionnaire even for clients to fill out that will automate or automatically produce documents for clients. So again, it's this idea of being more efficient and the possibility of outsourcing, and it all comes together then with the innovation in IT. So how do we train lawyers and practice in this new legal arena? With the influence of the US, with their economic influence, their political influence, what we're seeing in commercial domains is English everywhere, and contracts that are drafted in accordance with common law, be it American law or UK law. So what we need really are lawyers who are trained in the common law, which is great for all of us here. So the steps that I think are going to have to be added to training are, as I have here, the practical training in conjunction with formal education. So essentially, you're going to have trainee lawyers who are being taught business, they're being taught background information that they need in order to best advise our clients. Also to prepare them for the different types of legal jobs, so the jobs that Susskind has predicted are going to come about, because these jobs are coming to the fore. We can see it already now, and the better prepared law graduates are for these, the better. Also grounding in business and finance. This is what an awful lot of city law firms are looking for already. And to encourage students to look beyond the local, and practitioners as well, to look beyond the local, to consider the global, and to learn the law of other jurisdictions, to investigate the law of other jurisdictions and qualify, maybe dual qualify, even triple qualify in other jurisdictions, so that you can give a more rounded service to your clients, because that's what they're looking for. And finally, to encourage them obtaining an internationally recognised professional qualification. And this is where I can kind of give you a little bit of background from Barbary International ourselves, because we prepare people to sit the New York Bar and California Bar exams. And the idea that we have here is that the lawyer can become, who is qualified with the New York Bar or California Bar, can become the universal adapter. So basically the idea is that you can plug them in anywhere. The qualifications are internationally recognised. So clients know them, they know what they mean. Lawyers know them. They know exactly what it means. They know the standard of education that it implies. And the qualification itself it fits in exceedingly well with the demands of clients. They want a lawyer who is qualified quickly. The qualification can be efficiently obtained. It takes 5 months to study for the exam. Once you're qualified with either the New York Bar or the California Bar, there's no further training required. So there's no training contract, there's no pupillage. And the idea is that you learn on the job, which is the way an awful lot of lawyers, solicitors and barristers will learn anyway. As well, the exam, in preparing for the exam, it teaches you to think like a lawyer. So there's no focus on learning off statute. There's no rote learning. There is no learning off of case law. What you're taught is the rule of law and applying the rule of law. So it's a very interesting way of teaching the law, and it really does teach you to think like a lawyer and to think the way you will in practice. Which is exactly the kind of qualification that either on its own or along with the solicitor or barrister qualification would ensure the relevance of the lawyer in 21st century legal practice. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have any questions, please do ask. My colleagues and I are around at the Barbary International desk also if you want to come up and have a word with us. But if you have any questions, I'll open it to the floor for a couple of minutes. Attorney, sure. So what the gentleman asked was how to become a New York attorney. So what New York require is an undergraduate degree that is the equivalent substantively and durationally to a US JD, so a US law degree. So usually what that'll translate into is a 3 or 4 year law degree from common law jurisdiction like the UK. Once you have that, there's no requirement for you to have a first or anything like that in the degree. You just have to have the degree. And you can then apply they'll recognise the eligibility of your degree. You apply to sit the exam. You sign up with us to do the course, of course. And you'll spend 5 months then at weekends on a Friday evening and all day Saturday attending lectures and doing homework. So we provide you with a homework schedule that is completely detailed and it's set out basically so that you'll follow everything that you need to do. You learn everything you need to learn. It follows along so that you can tell how well you're studying, how well you should be getting on when you're doing practice questions. And then we run 2 mock exams then before you actually go to New York to sit the bar exam, and you'll sit it in New York itself. So once you have that, you sit an ethics exam. Once you've sat the ethics exam, it's very, very straightforward. You need to have 50 hours of pro bono work under your belt as well, and then you can be sworn in as a New York attorney. So as I said, once you have that, once you're sworn in, you're qualified and you can go down to the court and start taking business. You have to go to the US, yes, to sit the exam. No, you study for it here, but you go over to the US then to sit the exam. No, you study here for the 5 months, and then you'll go over to New York to just sit the exam. So about a week you would spend in New York. We do, yeah. So we have a centre here in the UK, in King's College in London, and also in Edinburgh, where you can go and sit and watch the lectures that are available. So you can sit here in a classroom situation, you're watching the lectures that are pre-recorded in New York, and we have facilitators there, so if you have any questions you can talk to them directly and they'll answer your questions in person. In King's College. Okay. So the format for the exam, it is over 2 days. The first day is 50 multiple choice questions based on New York law. You have 5 essays that are also based on New York law, and you have a multi-state practice test, which is a sort of closed universe set of documents that you're given, usually documents coming from a client where they have a particular legal problem, and you have to basically apply the law to the legal problem. So that's the first day. Takes place over 6 hours on the first day of the exam. The second day of the exam then is 200 multiple choice questions that are based on federal law. So it's 100 questions in the morning over 3 hours, and the second 100 over 3 hours in the afternoon. Substantively speaking, it's not a difficult exam because, there's a lot to learn, but it's very similar to the law here. So it's, an awful lot of the concepts are going to be very familiar to you. Where it becomes a little bit more tricky is the multiple choice format, because it's not a way that we test law over here. So basically what we will do is we set hundreds and hundreds of multiple choice question examples for you to do over the course of sitting the course. And then you'd have the 2 mock exams as well to practice. So it means that I think we counted them recently, it's about 2,000 multiple choice practice questions that you'll have done before you actually go over to sit the exam. And that's really where the difficulty lies. And the exam itself is not based on statute or case law. So it's rule of law and application of the rule of law. So you have only a few cases you'll have to know to refer to in the exam itself. So from that point of view, it's not the most difficult exam. It's just that there are a number of subjects to cover, and it's the material is quite intensive. So. Yeah, once you qualify, once you have the New York bar, I can give you the example of myself. Actually, I did the New York bar in 2006 and was sworn in the beginning of 2007. And I worked in Luxembourg for 4 years for a corporate firm and in-house in Luxembourg as well, working in corporate and investment funds. So the reason I got the job was that they recognised the New York bar qualification. They actually had no idea what the barrister or solicitor qualification was, which I found bizarre. Given that we're all located in Europe, you would think that continental Europe would be familiar with the way our legal systems work. But the New York bar, they know, and they have a lot of American clients, so they wanted me to deal with a lot of their American clients, and obviously an awful lot of commercial law is in English now, and drafted based on common law. So it's very useful. There's a huge market for people who have English as a first language and who have a common law qualification then and this international qualification in continental Europe, and also in the Middle East actually, and in the Far East as well. We're seeing a huge boost in the popularity of the qualifications there. So you'd be an attorney at law then once you have the qualification, yes, yeah. Sorry, yeah. It's not actually the pro bono work qualification, or sorry, requirement is you can do it anywhere. So basically it'll count from, you can absolutely do it in the UK. Usually what we're kind of looking at the moment is something like advising like a free legal advice centre. So it's providing access to justice for people who wouldn't necessarily have access to justice. The reason they brought it in is to really to kind of bring home, I think, to attorneys the level of people who do not have access to justice, but it also gives you practice then, and really on-the-job practice of using your qualification, because you're not doing a training contract or anything afterwards. So it just gives you that little bit more extra work on the job. So yeah, you can absolutely do it anywhere. With kind of a free legal advice centre, or like a in criminal justice type. What are they called? Civil rights type. Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Right. The course, okay, so the price for the course for either New York or California, it's £5,000 sterling. So it is less than half the cost of doing the LPC or the BPTC. And it can be done, or the qualification can be achieved in less than half the time as well. So it's a very efficient way of getting qualified and going out there. Yes, yeah. Okay. So, yes. Yeah, just I'll let you know that actually I didn't mention that we run the courses out of a classroom in King's College in London, also in Edinburgh, but we also have a home study program. So if you can't make it into the lectures, and that the only difference with that is that you have access online to the lectures, and then you'll be paired with a mentor who works for Barbary International. So if you have any questions about the substantive law, or any questions about the exam, or administrative questions or anything like that, you can get on to us in Barbary. And that's the way we work it. So aside from that, it's exactly the same. And what we generally advise is that students who are doing the home study course will come to do the mock exams, just because they're very useful to, as a test, just to see how your study is going and to see how prepared you are to go over to do the exam. So it's open, kind of both ways. Right. The cost is the same for the distance learning or doing it in the classroom as well. So it's same again. Right. So does anybody have any questions? If not, what I will do is I'll just finish up for the afternoon, and thank you guys very much for coming. And as I said, if you have any other questions, you can come up to me afterwards, or myself and my colleagues will be over at our Barbary International stand, which is L330, so it's just down the road there. So thank you very much again, guys.